My father called me a coward at my hearing. He did it with both hands on the table, leaning forward like the truth was something he could force into the room by pressing hard enough on the wood. "She left them behind," he said. "That is what nobody wants to say because she is wearing that uniform." The hearing room went quiet. Not shocked quiet, listening quiet. That was worse. My mother sat in the second row with her purse in her lap and her eyes fixed on the floor. My sister Erin sat beside her, chin lifted, mouth tight, trying not to look pleased. Across the aisle, 3 soldiers from my unit sat in their service uniforms, perfectly still. At the front of the room, a recorder typed every word into the official transcript. I was sitting at the respondent's table in my Army green service uniform, hands folded over a plain black folder, back straight, face calm. Calm is not the same as unhurt. Calm is what you choose when everyone in the room is waiting to see whether they can turn your pain into evidence against you. My father pointed at me. "She ran from duty," he said. "She came home with everyone calling her brave, but I know what happened. She left people out there and came back with a story." My sister whispered, not softly enough, "Coward." That word traveled across the room and landed exactly where she wanted it. I looked at her. Then I looked at my mother. My mother closed her eyes. She knew what Erin had planned, maybe not every sentence, enough. The hearing officer turned toward me. "Staff Sergeant Calder, do you wish to respond to your father's allegation at this time?" I could have. I could have opened the folder in front of me. I could have pulled out the notification letter, the witness statements, the medical evacuation timeline, the convoy log, the sworn statement from Sergeant Ibarra, and the after-action summary that had taken 3 months to clear review. I could have told the room that the word coward had been used by people who were not there, about a place they could not imagine. During 11 minutes, they had no right to rewrite. But 15 minutes earlier, Lieutenant Colonel Marin Holt had texted me from outside the building. "The report is cleared for release in the proceeding. Let them finish." So I looked at the hearing officer and said, "No, ma'am, the report will answer." My father gave a short, bitter laugh. My sister smiled. And I said nothing else. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can give a liar is the confidence to continue. Before I tell you what was in that incident report, ask yourself something. If your own family stood up in an official room and called you a coward for the worst day of your military career, would you defend yourself immediately, or would you wait for the document they never expected to exist? My name is Mara Calder. I was 33 years old, a staff sergeant in the United States Army, and I had spent 11 years becoming the kind of woman my family praised in public and resented in private. That combination is more common than people admit. My father, Paul Calder, liked the idea of service when it gave him something to brag about at church breakfasts. He liked saying, "My daughter is Army," when other men were listening. He liked photographs of me in uniform. He liked the clean pride of it. He did not like what service had made possible. My own bank account. My own decisions. My own life outside his authority. My mother, Diane, believed in peace the way some people believe in weather. You did not question it. You adjusted yourself around it. If my father was angry, peace meant I should soften. If my sister was cruel, peace meant I should understand her. If I was hurt, peace meant I should not make the room uncomfortable by saying so. And Erin. Erin was 2 years younger than me and had been competing with a version of me she invented when we were children. I got discipline, she got charm. I got expectations, she got forgiveness. I got called strong, she got called sensitive. I got the bill, she got the explanation. When I left for basic training, Erin cried at the kitchen table and told everyone I thought I was better than the family. My mother comforted her. My father said I was finally doing something useful. Nobody asked why leaving felt like breathing. I had started saying no more often before deployment. Not rudely, not dramatically, just no. That was when my family began calling me hard. I was part of a sustainment unit attached to a larger operation overseas. My job was movement coordination, routes, manifests, convoy timings, supply accountability, equipment handoffs, and the kind of paperwork no one respects until it is wrong and people start waiting for parts that do not arrive. It was not glamorous. It was important. For 10 months, I lived by rosters, signatures, check-ins, and accountability logs. I knew where I was supposed to be, when I was supposed to be there, who verified it, and what form proved it afterward. That is why the coward accusation was almost insulting in its stupidity. Almost. It started with a phone call from my mother during month 7. She said Erin had a chance to open a small beauty studio with a friend. She needed $20,000 for equipment and a lease guarantee. My mother said this opportunity was different. My father said a family with one successful child should help the child who was still trying. Erin got on the call and said, "You do not even spend your money over there." I remember the silence after that sentence. Not because the connection failed. Because something in me went still. I said, "No." Erin laughed. "You always say no now. I have said yes to you for 10 years. "Wow," she said, "so now you're keeping score." "No," I finally looked at the scoreboard. She hung up first. My mother called back 6 minutes later and told me I had humiliated my sister. From another continent. That was the gift my family had. They could take an ordinary boundary and make it sound like violence. After that, the messages changed. Erin sent fewer requests and more little cuts. Must be nice to hide overseas. Mom cried again today. Dad says you don't sound like yourself. You're not the only one serving something. Some of us are stuck here cleaning up real life. I saved them. Not because I knew I would need them. Because the Army teaches you that memory is useful, but documentation is better. The incident happened on a Tuesday in late September. We were returning from a delivery point after a delay that had already stretched everyone thin. There had been weather earlier. Visibility was ugly. Communications were inconsistent. The route had been cleared, then partially changed, then cleared again with conditions. That is how bad days begin. Not with music swelling. With small changes, a late departure, a radio that cuts in and out, a driver too quiet. A warning that sounds routine until it is not. I remember the sound first. Not the blast. People always think you remember the blast. I remember the half-second before it, when the world narrowed and every hair on my arms seemed to know something my mind had not processed yet. Then light. Heat. Metal. Dust. Someone screaming over the net. The second vehicle had been hit hardest. The front passenger side was torn open. The driver was conscious but trapped. Specialist Rowan, 19 years old and 3 months into his first deployment, was bleeding from the shoulder and trying to stand when he should not have been moving at all. Sergeant Ibarra had a head wound and kept repeating the same question because the answer would not stay in his brain. My vehicle was ahead. We stopped. We returned. That detail mattered later. We returned. I gave the first radio call. I called the contact. I gave grid coordinates. I started the casualty report with my hands shaking so badly I had to press the handset against the side of the door to keep the numbers steady. Training is not bravery, but training gives fear somewhere to go. I moved to the second vehicle with Corporal Dane behind me. We pulled Rowan back first because he was mobile enough to get himself killed if we let adrenaline keep lying to him. Ibarra was next, then the driver. The driver's name was Staff Sergeant Malik Reed. He had 2 daughters. That is not official data. That is what I remembered while trying to cut his harness loose. He kept saying, "My leg." I kept saying, "Look at me." He said, "Don't leave me." I said, "I'm not." The report later called my movement, "Controlled return under threat conditions." That phrase is neat. It fits in a paragraph. It does not smell like smoke. It does not include the sound of someone trying not to scream because screaming uses breath he needs. It does not include the moment you realize your own sleeve is wet and you do not know if the blood is yours. The second warning came 6 minutes after the blast. Possible secondary threat. Hold if able. Withdraw if required. People judge those words from chairs as if able is obvious. It was not. We moved Rowan to cover. I sent Dane back with Ibarra. I went back for Reed because his leg was trapped under the collapsed frame and the cutter jammed twice. The third time it worked. He looked at me and said, "You need to go." I said, "Then stop making this difficult." He laughed once. That laugh is in my memory forever. We got him clear 43 seconds before the second detonation. I do not remember hitting the ground. I remember waking to Dane yelling my name and the taste of dirt in my mouth. Reed survived. Rowan survived. Ibarra survived. Dane survived. I survived with a concussion, burns along my left forearm, hearing loss that took weeks to settle, and a report that took longer to process than the injuries. While the review was pending, details stayed limited. We were told not to discuss specifics outside the chain. The incident involved route security, response timing, and sensitive movement information. There were statements to collect, radio logs to review, medical timelines to verify. So when I came home, I did not tell my family the details. That was my mistake, according to them. To me, it was discipline. My father asked what happened at the first dinner after I returned. I said there had been an incident. He asked if I had been hurt. I said yes, but I was okay. Aaron said, "That sounds vague." I looked at her. "What would you like me to say?" "The truth." My mother whispered, "Aaron." My father leaned back. "People are just worried, Mara." No one in my family knew how to be worried without becoming entitled. I said, "The review is ongoing. I can't discuss details." Aaron laughed. Convenient. That word became the seed. Convenient that I could not explain. Convenient that I came home injured, but not visibly broken enough for them. Convenient that people at the unit were calling me brave, while my sister was trying to get me to pay the overdue balance on her business credit card. 2 weeks after I refused to give Aaron $5,000, the first rumor reached me through a cousin. He sent a message that said, "Hey, is it true there were questions about what happened overseas?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, "Who said that?" He did not answer. He did not need to. Aaron had always preferred side doors. The rumor grew in layers. First, that I had frozen. Then, that I had left people behind. Then, that I was being investigated for cowardice. Then, that my promotion was delayed because my command knew I had abandoned my team. The promotion part was clever because it touched something real. My packet had been delayed. Not because I had done wrong, but because the incident report was pending final review, and awards, promotions, and administrative actions sometimes wait for paperwork that has nothing to do with guilt. My family did not care about the distinction. Distinctions are inconvenient when gossip is working. My mother called me one night and said, "Your father is embarrassed." I was cleaning my burned dressing at the bathroom sink. By what? People are asking questions. Because Aaron is giving them questions to ask. Mara, she heard things. She invented things. You don't know that. I looked at my reflection. Hair pulled back, dark circles, a strip of gauze on my arm, a woman who had spent 43 seconds dragging a father out of a wreck and was now being told to respect the uncertainty of people who had not been there. "I was there," I said. My mother sighed. "Then why won't you just explain?" "Because the report is not cleared. Family should not need clearance." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because that sentence explained my whole life. Family should not need clearance. Family should not need boundaries. Family should not need proof. Family should be allowed into every locked room and offended if the door stays closed. I said, "This is not about family." She said, "That is exactly the problem." The hearing came because my father pushed it. Not directly at first. He contacted a Veterans Support Council connected to the installation and claimed there were ethical concerns about a pending recognition connected to the incident. That alone would not have done much, but he attached a statement. Aaron attached another. A civilian contractor's earlier complaint had already existed in the file, even though it had been addressed in review. The combination triggered a formal administrative hearing before the final recognition moved forward. My commander apologized when she told me. Lieutenant Colonel Marin Holt was not a woman who apologized often. That made it worse. "This should be quick," she said. "The report supports you." But because family statements have been submitted and the contractor complaint is in the record, they want it clean. Clean. I understood. The Army loves clean, so do I usually. But there is nothing clean about sitting in a hearing room while your family repeats the ugliest version of the worst day you have lived. Captain Elias Voss from JAG prepared me. He was precise, almost dry, with a habit of tapping his pen once before saying something unpleasant. "Do not argue emotionally," he said. "I know." "Do not interrupt your father." "I know." "Do not react to your sister." I looked at him. He tapped the pen. "I know you know. I am saying it because she is going to aim for reaction." He was right. Aaron arrived at the hearing in a pale blue blouse and the expression of a woman attending a funeral she had helped schedule. My father wore a suit he had not worn since my cousin's wedding. My mother looked tired, genuinely tired. For 1 weak second, I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered she had signed a statement saying I had changed since deployment and seemed unwilling to explain inconsistencies. Inconsistencies. My mother had not witnessed a single minute of the incident, but she had witnessed my refusal to give Aaron money. Some families do not need facts. They need emotional permission. The hearing officer explained the process. Statements would be heard. The incident report had been cleared for review in this proceeding, but would be introduced after testimony. Everyone present was reminded that false statements could carry consequences. My father spoke first. He began with pain. That is a common strategy in families. Start with pain so accusation looks like love. He said he had always supported my service. He said he respected the military. He said he wanted nothing more than to be proud. Then he said a father knows when a daughter is hiding something. My hands stayed folded. He said I had come home different. True. He said I refused to answer simple questions. Also true. Depending on whether you believe, tell us the details of a pending operational review is simple. Then he said I left people behind. Voss. Aaron spoke next. She gave a family statement, voice soft, eyes damp, carefully shaped for maximum damage. "Mara has always needed to be seen as the strong one," she said. "I think something happened over there that she can't face. I think she ran or froze or left people, and now everyone is protecting her because of the uniform." I looked at the table. The table did not deserve the pressure of my stare, but it took it well. Aaron continued. "She used to help this family. Now she acts like we are beneath her. When we ask questions, she hides behind reports. That is not courage." My father nodded. My mother looked at her hands. The hearing officer asked Aaron whether she had direct knowledge of the incident. Aaron said, "No, but I know my sister." Captain Voss wrote something on his pad. I hoped it was unkind. Then my father stood again and said the line that opened this story. "She left them behind." My sister whispered coward. And I waited. The hearing officer asked if I wished to respond. I said the report would answer. That was when the door opened. Lieutenant Colonel Holt entered with 2 folders under one arm and Sergeant Ibera beside her. I had not known Ibera was coming. For a moment, the room lost its edges. He walked with a slight limp now. The head wound had healed. He wore his uniform carefully, as if he had pressed every seam with gratitude and rage. Behind them came Captain Voss with the cleared incident report and the audio transcript from the radio log. My father frowned. Erin sat up straighter. Colonel Holt walked to the front, identified herself, and handed the report to the hearing officer. "This report has been cleared for this administrative proceeding," she said. "Some operational details remain redacted, but the findings relevant to Staff Sergeant Calder's conduct are available." The hearing officer opened the file. Paper turned. Slowly. My father looked annoyed at first, then uncertain. Erin looked at me, then away. Colonel Holt remained standing. The hearing officer read silently for nearly 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a long time when your life is inside a folder. Then she said, "Colonel Holt, the finding here states that Staff Sergeant Calder returned to the disabled vehicle under threat conditions after the initial blast." "Yes." My father's face changed. The hearing officer continued. "It states she initiated the casualty report, coordinated extraction, and physically assisted in removing 3 wounded personnel before the second detonation." "Yes." My mother made a small sound. Erin's eyes narrowed like the words had offended her. The hearing officer turned another page. "It states that the allegation of abandonment is unsupported by radio logs, witness statements, and medical evacuation timeline." Colonel Holt said, "Correct." Captain Voss placed another document in front of the hearing officer. "This is the relevant radio transcript." The hearing officer read the first page, then looked up. "Sergeant Ibera, you submitted a statement." Ibera stood. "Yes, ma'am." "You are also present voluntarily." "Yes, ma'am." His voice was steady. The hearing officer nodded. "Please summarize what you witnessed." I did not want him to. That is the strange part. For months, I wanted proof. I wanted someone to say what happened. I wanted the room to stop treating the truth like a rumor with better posture. Then Ibera stood, and all I wanted was to protect him from that memory. He looked at me once. Then he spoke. "Staff Sergeant Calder did not leave anyone behind. She came back. She came back when she could have withdrawn with the first vehicle. She pulled Specialist Rowan out. She got me to cover. She went back for Staff Sergeant Reed while we were still under threat." His voice tightened, but did not break. "She told Reed she wasn't leaving him. I heard that. I was conscious enough to hear it." The room was completely still. Ibera continued. "The second blast happened after she got him clear. If she had run, Reed would be dead, maybe more of us." My mother began crying. Not loudly, not performatively. The kind of crying that happens when the room finally stops, accepting the lie you helped carry. I did not look at her. I looked at Ibera because he deserved that much. The hearing officer turned to the radio transcript. "Colonel Holt, who is Raven 3. That was Staff Sergeant Calder's call sign for the movement." The hearing officer read aloud. "Raven 3 returning to disabled vehicle. 2 casualties visible. Initiating extraction." My father closed his eyes. The hearing officer read another line. "Raven 3 remaining with trapped personnel. Secondary threat possible. Medevac requested." Erin whispered, "Stop." Nobody did. The hearing officer read the final line on the page. "Raven 3 reports Reed clear. All personnel moving. Secondary detonation follows 43 seconds later." The room did not breathe. Then Colonel Holt opened the second folder. "This is the recommendation attached to the final report," she said. "Staff Sergeant Calder was recommended for recognition for decisive action under threat conditions, preservation of life, and maintenance of command accountability during a hostile incident." She looked at my father. Not angrily. Worse. Professionally. The report does not name her a coward. It names her first. That was the bottom of the room falling out. My sister's face went white. My father looked smaller than I had ever seen him. My mother covered her mouth with both hands. The hearing officer asked whether my father wished to amend his statement. He did not answer. Captain Voss tapped his pen once. I should not have noticed. I almost smiled. The hearing officer asked Erin whether she had any direct evidence supporting her claim. Erin's lips parted. No sound came out. That silence was more honest than anything she had said all morning. The hearing officer placed both hands on the report. The record will reflect that the allegation that Staff Sergeant Calder abandoned personnel is contradicted by the official incident report, radio transcript, and witness statement. The administrative concern is closed. Closed. One word. Months of poison cut at the root. My family did not move when the hearing ended. Other people did, chairs shifted, papers closed. The recorder stopped typing. Ibera stepped back. Captain Voss gathered his folder. Colonel Holt waited near the front. My father finally looked at me. His face was gray. Mara, he said. I stood. The uniform felt heavier than it had that morning, not from shame, from returning to its proper weight. I looked at him. You called me a coward. He swallowed. I didn't know. No, I said. You didn't want to wait. He flinched. Erin stood quickly. You made us think. I turned to her. That stopped her. I did not raise my voice. You said it. Her mouth closed. You said the word. Her eyes filled, not with remorse, with fear. She had lost the room. People like Erin often mistake that for being wounded. My mother reached for my sleeve. I stepped back. Her hand froze in the air. I'm sorry, she whispered. I wanted that to matter more than it did. Instead, all I could think was that she had waited until the report made apology safe. Colonel Holt approached then. Staff Sergeant Calder. Yes, ma'am. The recommendation proceeds. Yes, ma'am. She held my gaze for a second. You should take the rest of the day. I almost argued. Then I saw Ibera standing by the door, waiting. Yes, ma'am, I said. Outside the hearing room, the hallway smelled like floor polish and burnt coffee. Ibera stood beside a vending machine with both hands in his pockets. You didn't have to come, I said. He looked at me like I had said something foolish. Yes, I did. That broke me more than the report. Not completely. I did not fall apart in the hallway. I had learned too well how to keep my body arranged when the inside of me was not. But something in my throat closed. Ibera said, Reed wanted to come too. Medical wouldn't clear the travel. I nodded. He sent something. Ibera handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it later, alone in my car. It said, You said you weren't leaving. I believed you then. I believe you now. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes after reading it. Not crying exactly. Just letting the truth exist without having to defend it. The recognition ceremony happened 2 weeks later. Smaller than originally planned, more formal, less family. My parents asked if they could attend. I said no. My mother cried on the phone. My father did not speak. Erin sent a text that said, I was angry and I listened to the wrong people. That sentence told me she still could not stand alone inside what she had done. I did not respond. At the ceremony, Colonel Holt read from the approved summary. Not everything. Some details stayed where they belonged, but enough. Enough for the soldiers in the room to understand. Enough for my name to be attached to what actually happened. Enough for the word coward to become ridiculous in any mouth that tried to hold it. When the certificate was handed to me, my left hand shook slightly. Only Ibera noticed. He nodded once. That was all. It was enough. The fallout at home was quieter than people imagine. Families like mine do not collapse dramatically. They revise. My father told relatives he had been misled. My mother called it stress. Erin disappeared for a month, then returned online with captions about healing. I did not attend Thanksgiving, Christmas, or my father's birthday dinner. My mother said I was punishing everyone. No, I told her. I am no longer attending rooms where my character is negotiable. She said that sounded cold. I said it sounded accurate. 6 months later, my father wrote me a letter. Not an email, a letter. He said he had been wrong. He said he let fear and Aaron's words fill the space where trust should have been. He said hearing the transcript made him understand that there were parts of my life he had demanded access to without earning the right. It was the closest he had ever come to understanding. Then, near the end, he wrote, "I think I wanted your service to make me proud without making me feel small." I read that sentence 3 times. That was the first honest thing my father had ever given me. I did not forgive him immediately. Honesty is not a receipt you hand someone in exchange for forgiveness. But I kept the letter. My mother never wrote one. Aaron waited almost a year before calling. Her voice sounded thinner. "I was jealous," she said. "Of what?" "Everyone clapping for you." I thought about the blast, Reed saying "don't leave me," the report, the hearing, and the word coward. "Aaron," I said, "you were jealous of applause you did not understand." She cried. I let her. Rescuing her from truth had been part of the old arrangement, and I was done with that. A year later, I was cleaning out old folders before a move and found the administrative packet. I sat at my kitchen table, opened the file, and saw the transcript page. The sentence looked smaller on paper than it had sounded in that room. That happens with lies. Once they lose the room, they shrink. I closed the folder and placed it in a locked box with deployment records, evaluations, certificates, and old letters from soldiers I had supervised who later outranked me and still called for advice. That box means more to me than my family understands. It contains proof of a life they kept trying to reduce to selfishness. If you have ever had people resent the very discipline they benefit from, you know what I mean. If you have ever been called cold by someone who depended on your steadiness, you know. If you have ever built something slowly while your family waited for the moment they could pull it back into their own needs, you know. The day my father said I left them behind, he thought the words would stain me in a place I could not wash clean. He forgot that I had spent 11 years in a profession built on accountability. Where were you? Who verified it? What does the log say? Who made the statement? What does the report conclude? Those are not emotional questions. That is why they work. My recognition was not saved by shouting. It was saved by rosters, radio calls, medical timelines, witness statements, and a commander who let the record speak when my family expected me to break. I still talk to my father sometimes. Not often. My mother sends holiday texts that sound like press releases. Aaron and I are not close. Maybe we never were. Maybe closeness that depends on one person always paying is just debt with better lighting. I do not wear that recognition like revenge. I wear it like weathered metal. It cost what it cost. And the day my commander opened the incident report, the room did not just hear what happened. It heard what my silence had been protecting. Not pride. Not secrecy for its own sake. Not some convenient story. The truth. That is the lesson I kept. Silence is not always dignity. Sometimes silence is discipline. Sometimes it is strategy. And sometimes, when your family has mistaken your restraint for guilt, silence is simply the space you leave open so the truth can enter the room, open the file, and read your name first.